This is the ultimate Phineas and Ferb family tree. And by ultimate, I mean everyone here is connected. Phineas, Doofenshmirtz, Stacy, Isabella, Buford, Monogram, for a total of more than 150 characters, all connected in some way in this tree. Which, it started off as a family tree, but now it's more of a map of how everyone in town is connected. This is our key, so it doesn't get too confusing. The red lines connect to family members, the pink ones are for romantic relationships, the blue ones are for nemesis and frenemies, whereas yellow, green, and cyan are for the organizations, so Love Muffin, Fireside Girls, and respectively. Try not to get lost. We'll start easy with the Flynn-Fletchers and we'll gradually move on to the rest of town. It's gonna be fun. Remember to hit the subscribinator, and if you want me to update this tree after the revival is out, then let me know in the comments. With that being said though, let's get started. We begin with Phineas Flynn. Phineas, of course, has an older sister, Kandace, and together they're the children of some unnamed mysterious dude. A video about him is coming like super soon, and of course, Linda Flynn. When Phineas was a toddler, Linda remarried and became Linda Flynn-Fletcher. Her new husband, Lawrence, already had a son, Ferb, from his previous marriage with yet another unknown mysterious woman. When the boys were about 3 years old, the family adopted a pet platypus, Perry the platypus. Easy enough, right? Wrong. Linda has a younger sister, Tiana, who got married to Bob Webber in the episode Candace's Big Day. Linda and Tiana are the daughters of Clyde and Betty Jo Flynn. Betty Jo, known for her roller skating abilities, also has a twin sister, Lorraine, who lives inside of an actual factual closet and only comes out once a year just to pull pranks on the kids. What a life. On the Fletcher side of the family, we have Lawrence's brother, Adrian, who, alongside his wife, Lucy, had 6 children. Eliza, and then Beckham, Pele, and Beckham-Fletcher. So I checked, and apparently it's not illegal to call your children with the same name. It's just very dumb, weird, and confusing, but especially dumb. But it is legal, so yeah, the more you know. Lawrence and Adrian are the sons of Reginald Fletcher, the flying fishmonger, and Winifred Fletcher, who doesn't really have much going on for her. I guess she likes tea, and that's pretty much all we know about her. However, we also know about Reginald's parents, his father, who owned a fish and chips shop in England, and his mother, who is actually still alive to this day, and also, for some reason, she kinda looks younger than her daughter-in-law. If we go up the Fletcher family tree, we're gonna find a whole lot of Ferb lookalikes, like Ferb Gore, Rhode Island Fletcher, Ferb from China, but eventually we're gonna get to the Stone Age, where we're gonna meet Gerb. Gerb is the son of Da, and alongside Finnebank, he invented the wheel, the car, and somehow the English language. Which makes absolutely no sense, but it is canon, so let's roll with it. And yes, isn't he a little ancient to invent the English language, you might ask? Well, yes he is. Finnebank has an older sister, Kentuck, the first human being to ever discover fire, or Kentuck Makafunfa, as she says, and the two of them are the children of Mog, who I wouldn't want to say remarried because it was the Stone Age, there was no such thing as marriage yet, so she was in a relationship, were there relationships in the Stone Age, with Da. Which, you know, it's so shocking you probably never would have seen it coming. Finnebank and Gerb also have a pet platypus, or rather, the ancestor of a platypus, Banka the Bankakwan. Finally, as you might have guessed, Finnebank is a distant relative of Clyde Flynn. And with this, we've come full circle. But this is just the start. As of the episode Summer Belongs to You, Kandace will start dating Jeremy Johnson. Together, years later, the two will have 3 children, Amanda and Xavier, who look just like their parents, and then there's Fred, who people suggest that he might actually be Buford and Candace's son. And I do like this theory, but maybe this is not the right place to talk about it, maybe in some other video. Jeremy has a younger sister, Susie, who's pretty much evil personified, and Susie also has a dog who's like evil just in dog form. Of course, Susie is Candace's nemesis, try saying that 10 times fast. But while we're at it, another nemesis of Kandace, if you will, is Mandy, the older sister of Thaddeus and Thor. These two Phineas and Ferb lookalikes who are half as creative as them, but also twice as arrogant. Then Jeremy and Susie's parents are Jack Johnson and Mrs. Johnson, also known as Hawkeye Johnson. Then Jack has a brother, Joe, who owns a sub shop downtown, and together they're the children of Hildegard Johnson, who, would you look at that, is also the nemesis of Betty Jo Flynn. Back to Ferb, and let's tackle the Doofenshmirtzes. Sometime between the original summer and the episode Act Your Age, hopefully after Ferb turns 18, Ferb is gonna start dating Vanessa Doofenshmirtz, the daughter of Charlene and of course Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. There's not much to say about Charlene except that she seems to be dating this guy Sam from Charitable Charities, but that's pretty much it. Whereas about Doof, we have a whole lot to say. Vanessa might be Doof's only daughter, but he did give life to Balloony first and Norm later, his assistant, confidant, and at this point, I'd say son. I do like seeing Norm as Doof's son. I would love to see them play a game of catch. You may remember Doof has a younger brother, Roger, aka the mayor, who was never revealed on the show or even hinted at really, but I always had a feeling he might have a thing for his secretary Melanie. It was never stated, again, and it's probably all in my head, but I just wanted to include her in the tree because why not? Heinz and Roger are the children of Mrs. and Mr. Doofenshmirtz, the two biggest assholes on the planet. Mr. Doofenshmirtz also has a dog, an award-winning show dog he named Only Son because he was like the son he never had, or at least up until he had Roger. His father is Jose Doofenshmirtz, who for some reason is Latino. Jose's mother is Gretel, known for her meatloaf recipe, and her husband is, well, I actually made a whole theory video about him, so you can go check it out if you want. It's nice, it's weird and convoluted, just how you like it. Finally, this guy's dad is Jekyll Doofenshmirtz, the very same Jekyll from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Then we can go up the Doofenshmirtz family tree as well, and when we get to the Stone Age, we're gonna meet Doofengang. This guy presumably has a brother, at least this guy looks an awful lot like Roger, so I can only assume he's his brother, although it was technically never stated on the show. Although no one really stated anything in that episode, Doofenshmirtz was only grunting the entire time there.
You know what, I think you're right, this was a bad idea.
These two lovely gentlemen have a common ancestor, which is this thing. And finally, Doofengang also has a nemesis, aka Banca de Bancaquan. Boom, full circle once again. Now let's go back to Doofenshmirtz and let's discuss this guy's love life. First of all, back in the 80s, he briefly dated Linda Flynn, although that was a pretty short date since Linda didn't seem to appreciate being stuck in the trunk of his car for the whole ride. Yeah, I know, there's no pleasing her. Other than Linda, there's also Gru Linda, this girl Doof initially thought hated his guts, but then it turned out that she actually really liked him. Unfortunately for him, when he found out decades later, it was kinda too late since he had already sworn to get his revenge and had planned a whole thing to ruin her and her reputation, which, again, she didn't really seem to appreciate. Then there's Rosie, the square dancing girl, his evil date from Shea Platypus, Elizabeth, who left him for a whale and now lives inside of said whale. And then there's this Fräulein, which I think it's just a young unmarried woman in German. I think. She was into him up until Huge Hans arrived and stole the show with his hand shadows. Very relatable. Then there's his date from the Bigfoot episode, and finally, the girl from his very first date, which, of course, was ruined by Big Black Boots Boris. Since we just mentioned them, let's talk about Doof's nemesis. He has a whole lot of those. There's plenty of people, animals, inanimate objects he holds a grudge against, including several baking soda volcanoes, so we can't really fit them all in here, so let's just cover the most important ones. You might remember Peter the Panda, who's more of a frenemy at this point. Then there's Huge Hans and Big Black Boots Boris, of course. Then there's Mitch, who stole Balloony from him, and at this point we can even make the connection of Meep being Mitch's nemesis. And finally, how could we forget about Perry the Platypus, his nemesis and also best friend? That's because Balloony kinda lost some points after he abandoned him. That bastard, floating away like that. Perry would have never done that to him. Back to our boy Norm, he actually has a thing for this other robot, Chloe, which was created by Rodney, or Alois von Radenstein, or I never bothered to learn his full name, too much effort, who's of course another nemesis of Doof. Rodney has a son, Orville, and alongside Dr. Diminutive, whose nemesis is Newton the New, Dr. Doofenshmirtz, and a lot of other evil scientists, he's part of Love Muffin, the League of Villainous Evildoers maniacally united for threatening investments in naughtiness. Now, we're done with Doof for a while, but we're not done with Vanessa. In fact, before dating Ferb, she first dated Johnny and later dated Monty, aka Monty Monogram, aka the son of Major Francis Monogram. Monogram superior is Colonel Contraction, and together they all work for AUCA, the organization without a cool acronym. Working for Major Monogram is Carl, who at first is an unpaid intern, then a paid intern, and eventually, when Monogram will retire, he will become Commander Carl. When that will happen, his intern is gonna be Irving Dubois, Phineas and Ferb's friend, but mostly their #1 stalker. You might remember him for being the younger brother of Albert Dubois, and that's a lie because no one cares about Albert. He once had a thing for Kandace, so at least he has that going on for him, but that's pretty much it. These are their parents, but we don't really know anything about them. Working for AUCA under Monogram's division, of course, is Perry the Platypus, no news there. But, interestingly enough, both Norm and Dr. Doofenshmirtz did work for Monogram. Doof actually worked for AUCA on 2 different occasions, in Agent Doof first and in the AUCA files later. And we're done with this portion of the tree, but there's one more. Of course, we haven't talked about Phineas. As of the episode Act Your Age, everyone's favorite episode, Phineas will start dating Isabella Garcia Shapiro. Isabella's parents are Vivian and Mr. Garcia Shapiro, and her grandma is Nana Shapiro. She also has a dog, Pinky the Chihuahua, who has a nemesis in Esmeralda Puffenplots, and Pinky of course also works for AUCA, except not under Major Monogram's division, but rather under Wanda Acronym's division. Wanda Acronym, whose intern is Carla. She is related to Carl, but it's not clear if she's his sister, cousin, or whatever. They are related though. They're just one big family of unpaid interns. Back to Isabella, she, alongside Katie, Millie, Holly, Addison, Gretchen, and Ginger, all the way down here, is a Fireside girl, with the head and founder of the organization being Eliza and Fireside. There's also a bunch of other Fireside girls who are not in Isabella's troupe, and then there's also Kandace, who became a Fireside girl in the episode Fireside Girl Jamboree, and she is still part of the organization to this day, although she doesn't really care much about it, but she is part of it. Why is Ginger all the way down here? Because we gotta talk about her family and her love interests. Ginger's older sister is Stacy, Kandace's best friend, who is dating Coltrane. Their mom is Dr. Hirano and their grandma is Bachan. There's also a bunch of cousins in Japan, but I couldn't quite make them fit into the tree. But they're there. Sometime before the episode Act Your Age, Ginger will start dating Baljeet. And I'd like you to notice how, when they're gonna get married, she's gonna become Ginger Chinder, which is super cool and on the same level as Big Black Boots Boris and Huge Hands Hans. I love it. It was not done on purpose, but I love it. Other than Ginger, Baljeet has also shown interest in Mishti and even this other girl on Christmas, Wendy, not to mention he might even have a thing for Isabella, so he's a real Casanova. These are Baljeet's mother and father, who, I mean, this guy is very weird because he looked like this back in the 50s and he looks exactly the same in the present day, so there's something wrong with his character design. But either way, even if he was 16, for instance, back in the 50s, he still would be so incredibly old right now. He would be at least 70, if not older, so how does that work? We also know about Baljeet's grandpa and his great-grandpa, and we do know that both of them, alongside Baljeet's father, they all got mauled horribly by tigers. They did survive though, so I guess that's a good thing, right? Baljeet's frenemy is Buford Van Stom, whose mother is Biffany and whose pet fish is Biff, named after his mother. How adorable. Back in Paris, Buford had a romantic relationship with this girl, Brigitte, who's also a Fireside girl. Now, because I think it would be criminal not to include them in the family tree at this point, I'd like to talk about the second dimension characters. I don't know if this is a bit of a stretch, but we could say that another nemesis of Perry the Platypus is Heinz Doofenshmirtz from the second dimension, who's married to second dimension Charlene, and they're actually married and just pretend to be divorced, unlike first dimension Doof and Charlene. Together, would you look at that, they also have a daughter, second dimension Vanessa, and they also have an army of Normbots. Another nemesis of second dimension Doofenshmirtz fighting against him is second dimension Kandace, who at this point you probably got the whole gist. She has a younger brother, second dimension Phineas, her mother, second dimension Linda, remarried to second dimension Lawrence, has a son, second dimension Ferb. Together they have a platypus, Perry the Platyborg in this universe. And of course, Perry the Platyborg is yet another nemesis of second dimension Doofenshmirtz. Finally, and we're almost there, second dimension Kandace is the head of the Resistance, which second dimension Isabella, Buford, and Baljeet are all part of, alongside second dimension Jeremy, who second dimension Kandace has a crush on. And with this, we wrap up this family tree. Except there's 9 or 10 more characters who I really wanted to add to the tree, but I couldn't quite make them fit anywhere. There was no way for me to connect them to the rest of the tree. And these guys are Love Handle, of course, so Danny, Bobby, and Swampy, the farmer and his wife, and then the Brown family, so Jenny, Candace's second best friend, if you will, her dog, her brother Django, who's also Phineas and Ferb's friend, and then their father, Beppo Brown. So if you guys have any idea as to how to connect these guys to the rest of the tree, then let me know in the comments, although I wouldn't want to add a new line for friendships, a friendship line. It feels a little lame, honestly, and at the same time, on the show, pretty much everyone is friends with everyone else, so there would be way too many connections to make. So if you have any other ideas, let me know in the comments. Also, do let me know if there are some other characters you want me to add to the tree. We could do this again if you want after the revival is out, so let me know. Also, if you're asking, I didn't add certain characters just because I didn't know exactly where to place them. For instance, Uncle Fluffy Pants or Uncle Sabu. I don't know exactly if Uncle Fluffy Pants is Mr. Doofenshmirtz's brother, or maybe his cousin, or some other distant relative, so because it was never stated, I didn't really feel like adding him to the tree. I tried not to make any assumptions, with the only exception of Melanie, just because I like Melanie. Sue me. With that being said, I thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao!